brilliant economic students. Today we're talking about the financial system. So a financial system is a group of institutions that helps match the saving of one person with the investment of another. So if I have excess money, right? I have some money that I don't want to spend, I will save it in a financial system. I will give it to somebody to take care of my money, and they will give it to somebody else when they want investment. So on the other side, some person is like, shoot, I want to buy a house, but I don't have 500 grand on me. So they go to a financial system and they say, hey, I need 500 grand. And they're like, all right, a bunch of people saved. So here you go. Here's some money so that you can invest in a house or something. That is what the financial system does. It matches my savings to the investment of another person or someone else's savings to my investment. That is what a financial system does. An example of this is or kind of a subsection of this is the financial market, where institutions can directly provide funds to borrowers. Uh, we, an example of this is the stock and bond market. So if I have some money that I don't want to spend right now, I can invest it into the stock market, and my savings directly funds whatever company I'm investing in. So that could be like Apple or Windows or whatever. It could be any company, but my savings directly provide funds to that company. In the case of the stock market, you are a direct owner of the company. You are a partial owner of the company. If I own stock in Apple, then I own part of the Apple company. That means every time Apple makes profits, then you get some of that profit. It's obviously shared out amongst all of the stockholders, but you get some of that profit. S- And with the bond, you are not partial ownership. It's just kind of a certificate of indebtedness. So if a company goes under, if it goes bankrupt, then the first thing they're gonna do is they're gonna pay back the stockholder or the not the stockholders. They will not pay back the stockholders. They'll pay back the bondholders because they are indebted to you, so they have to pay off those debts before they run out of money. But with the stock market, they don't owe you anything. If they start losing money, then essentially you do too. So that's the difference between the stock and bond market. Next up is financial intermediaries, where institutions indirectly provide funds to borrowers. So this is like a bank, and this is what most people probably think of when I describe this. So I pay money to a bank. They they put it in there so other people can borrow it. That is what they do. I'm not directly giving somebody money, like in the case of the stock market. Another example is a mutual fund. Mutual. So mutual funds are there's an N in there. They they sell shares to the public so that it's basically a group of stocks and bonds. A portfolio of stocks and bonds is probably the best way of describing it. So if I wanted to put a bunch of money into the stock and bond market to get some money, then but I don't really know what to do. I may not know a lot about economics, or the average person may not know a lot about economics. If they want to see if they can make some money or just kind of save some money, then they're going to probably, if they have maybe 5 grand or something, they would probably invest in a mutual fund. That would probably be a smart investment there. And again, investment being savings for an economics class. This is the same thing as savings. It is a group of different stocks and bonds from different companies. So it might have a little bit in Apple, a little bit of Microsoft, But hey, that's enough tech companies. Let's go over to IKEA and invest a little bit of there and a little bit in Walmart. Or some fast food restaurants. Invest in a little bit in McDonald's and a little bit in Wendy's. Just different sects of the financial system or economic pie. So now we're going to talk about private and public savings, the different types of savings. So private savings is the money that households do not spend. So if you have GDP as Y, we learned that in another video. GDP is Y, and we spend some money on taxes. We pay money to taxes, and then we consume some things. Whatever is left is some savings. If we're not, so this is savings for private. If we are not spending some money on whatever we buy or whatever we're not paying to the government due to taxes, then that is some savings. Private savings, think of households. Public savings, things like public services, things that the government spends money on. So, what is some things the government the way the government gets money is through taxes. The government gets our tax money. That's positive savings money, but they spend things for public services like uh, schooling, partisan schooling, some roads, whatever. That's government spending, and that is public saving. Public saving. That is, I don't know what character that was. Public saving. And so national saving is the two of these put together. So this is going to be just private plus public saving. Y minus T minus C plus T plus P minus G. And there's something we can notice here. That this negative T, and there's a positive T. From algebra class, they cancel out. So national saving is just Y minus C minus G. And there's something interesting we can notice here. We can look at our GDP formula of Y equals C plus I plus G plus NX. NX. If we said net exports was zero, let's imagine a closed economy for now. And we said, let's solve for investment. Y minus C minus G equals I. We solve for investment assuming that we didn't have any net exports. And I want you to notice that these two are the exact same thing. National saving equals investment in a closed economy. Now we're going to look at the market for loanable funds. The market for loanable funds. So this is a abstraction because there's no proper example of this in the real world. There's no central market of loanable funds. We can just kind of imagine one to understand this to our economic brains. So in the real world, each market has different interest rates and different, just different interest rates. There's not one singular bank, there's not one singular stock market or whatever. Everything has different interest rates, but we're just going to imagine that they all conjoin together to be one interest rate. So let us draw the supply curve. So the supply, I think there's two P's in supply. Supply. Now it looks ugly. But this is a supply curve. And you could also imagine it as the saving curve. So S in this case for both supply and saving. P, P, L, Y. And so this is equal to the national savings. National savings. I forgot to label my axes. Whoops. Let's do that. So this is the loanable funds, quantity of loanable funds. And over here is the interest rate. Well, let's call this R. And back to the labeling here, the national savings is the public and the private savings. Public and private. PRI. Public and the private savings. So anything that makes saving more attractive will increase the supply of loanable funds. If we save, then more people can invest. That is the idea behind this supply curve. This is supply of loanable funds is our savings, and so the demand curve will be people's investment, how much people want to buy something. So this is our investment, our demand for what we need to invest. So I'll just write this as demand, but the demand for how much we need to purchase from these financial systems, how much we need to borrow. So we as consumers are on both sides of this market. For microeconomics, when they looked at just a regular supply and demand graph, we are, for the most part, just on the consumer side. But we have to kind of think about this from both sides, especially in macroeconomics when we are on both sides. On the supply side, we will save in some financial institution. And let's say we want to, we were here, then we move over to our equilibrium quantity. Why would we do that if we were saving? Well, the interest rate went from this quantity to this quantity. And if the interest rate in a bank went up, you would probably want to save more. And like if it went from 2% to 5%, you're like, dang, I gotta save more because I'm gonna get more money on my whatever I save. So you might put a little bit more money in the bank and not spend as much. To just kind of get a bit more return on your savings. That is what consumers would do. Now, what about on the demand side? So let's not think about the supply side. Well, what if we thought about the demand side with the investment? We went from the same quantities, but we went from here on the demand side. If we were looking for a house and we needed to buy some, or not buy, we needed to borrow some money from a bank, and we noticed that the rate was here, and then it went down to here at in the financial market for loanable funds, if the rate went down, the interest rate went down, we would be more likely to say, all right, we'll borrow some money from here so that we don't have to pay as much back in the future. People would be more likely to borrow money to invest. That is what this supply and demand model is. And then one more concept is called crowding out. So I'll so crowding out, crowding out. So crowding out is when the government borrows more and more money to finance its deficit. If the government is kind of out of money, they not necessarily out of money, but they want to borrow more and more money from countries, and so they are kind of in a budget deficit. And if they just keep borrowing more and more money, then to fix this issue, then it has less funds available for investment. And this is called crowding out. There's less funds for the public to get in more stuff. If they are spending a lot of money on fixing their budget deficit, then we don't get new roads and new whatever public services. So this is also just a key concept to know.